is the Glasgow coat of arms and the Glasgow motto, "Let Glasgow flourish." And depicted on that coat of arms is the tree that never grew, the fish that never swam, the bell that never rang, etc. And what we're actually looking at the moment is the new Glasgow Concert Hall. When I say new, it's now, well, it's about over a year old, and it was formally opened by the Princess Anne last year. And this is actually quite near my workplace, which is in Portland Road. What we're looking at the moment is the top of Buchanan Street and Killamont Street, and that's just panning up again, and you can see the Glasgow motto, "Let Glasgow flourish." This is us going into Bath Street and looking down into Buchanan Street. This is a kind of lunchtime scene, and it's fairly busy around about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Most folk are out from their offices, lunch breaks, etc. Here's the Tron Church in Buchanan Street. Quite an impressive structure, I would say so. And some of the architecture surrounding the place. As you can see, we're actually at Nelson Mandela Place. And Nelson Mandela is a free man of the city. He was awarded the Freedom of Glasgow last year as well. And now, of course, he's the President of South Africa. This is us looking into the Clydesdale Bank at the reflection of the Tron Church. And this is us round the corner from it, and we're now looking at the Stock Exchange in Glasgow. Not obviously on the same scale as the London Stock Exchange, not as much business done here, just fairly local stuff. And again, look at the architecture. As I say, we're in Nelson Mandela Place. Nelson Mandela, Freeman of Glasgow. Some lunchtime traffic. Now we're in Sauchiehall Street. Now Sauchiehall Street is probably the most famous shopping centre in Glasgow. Sauchiehall Street, that actually comes from a Gaelic word meaning the street of the willows, and as you can see there's willow trees all the way up Sauchiehall Street. Here's one of the local pubs one can enjoy a pint of beer from, Lauders, named after a famous Scottish comedian. And this is us looking back up Sauchiehall Street. The Glasgow Evening Times, that's a newspaper, comes out during the day, not a morning paper, just a evening paper. Sack the board as the headlines. Celtic Football Club, as you probably heard when I sent you the film of the Rangers Celtic game, having a lot of turmoil at board level, etc., and on and off the park. And this is us again sweeping down to Sauchiehall Street, and usually get a lot of buskers and pavement artists, etc., down here. In fact, there's one right there. Now this building here is actually the building where I work. That's Buchanan House, in Port Dundas Road, and that's home of Railtrack Scotland. It's got about 9 floors to the building, and I'm on the 3rd floor, not facing this way actually, but round the back of the building. One or two other railway departments housed within it. That's the statue outside called Locomotion, appropriately enough for a railway building. Makes me think of work when I see this. And if we look across from my office, we can actually see the commercial TV station Scottish Television. And another look at the work. What we're looking at now is Glasgow City Chambers, and that's really where all our local councillors sit and make the decisions which affect the city of Glasgow. You also have the George Square here that we're looking at. This is where a lot of the protest marches and whatever start from. The statue right at the middle of George Square, what we're looking at the moment, is Sir Walter Scott, the novelist, and that's the War Cenotaph Memorial there in the background. There's a Glasgow bus, and there's another Glasgow bus. That's typical because usually when you're looking for a Glasgow bus they never arrive, and when eventually they do arrive, they all arrive at the same time. I don't know if that's the same over North Carolina. It certainly is here. You can see most folk out having their lunch and sitting enjoying some unusual sunshine for Glasgow at this time of year. I know it's supposed to be summer. Not that we get much of a summer in Glasgow.
To you. Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? I do turn like to do. When you're hugging with your baby and back row of the whoa, Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're hugging with your baby and back row of the balcony. When you're hugging with your baby and back row of the balcony. When you're hugging with your baby and back row of the balcony. Is that another one that we've all this? Thanks very much. We're busking today for the Chatty to Jelly. Yeah, dancer. Woo!
Well, I hope you enjoyed that impromptu dance there from one of the Glasgow characters. We're now looking along Argyle Street, and here's some of the pavement artists I was telling you about. Normally we find them in Sauchiehall Street, but they seem to have moved down to Argyle Street today, and no doubt you know that's the figure of Marilyn Monroe. And it's become quite a popular site, this, where most of the art students come out during the summer, and it's a way of earning them, you know, a bit of money, pocket money or whatever. This is us looking towards Glasgow Central Railway Station. That's just one of the adverts there. Glasgow's alive and kicking and recycling glass bottles. And look at all those Glasgow buses again, what I was telling you about. They come in threes. That one's going out to Bayliston. Now we're looking at St Enoch's Square, and the building you're looking at the moment used to be the old underground building. It's now been made into a travel centre. The actual underground itself is slightly to the right of the picture. We may well pan over and have a look at it. One never knows. There you go. There, just under there, is the Glasgow Underground system at St Enoch's. And there's William Teacher's, headquarters of famous whisky makers. And the model shop there, actually, if you can just make it out, called Beatties, over there on the right hand side of the picture. That's very famous for train sets, etc. Now we're looking up Buchanan Street, looking towards Nelson Mandela Place and the Tron Church, which you saw in the early part of the video. And this is another shopping precinct. Most of the Glasgow streets in the city centre are all barred from traffic, and it allows pedestrians easy access. Royal Exchange Square just off of Buchanan Street now, and there's another busker, someone obviously on the fiddle. Royal Exchange Square, quite a Roman look to this place, I think, even Greek. Now we're looking at the Stirling Library in Glasgow, just round the corner from Royal Exchange Square. Not the biggest library in Glasgow. The biggest library is actually the Mitchell Library, which is along at Charing Cross, about a mile from here. And it's in fact the biggest reference library in Europe. Now we're looking at Virginia Place and Virginia Street. Now a lot of streets in Glasgow are actually called after the tobacco barons that once ruled Glasgow, and you will know all about the tobacco trade within Glasgow and Virginia, and you get places like Virginia Street and Norfolk Street named after these tobacco areas and tobacco barons. Well, we've almost come to the end of the tape, and I hope you've enjoyed the video message. I'm going to finish